Yo, this is Set with Set Media, guys, and I'm back with another one. All right, guys, we're about to get right into it because we do got some good news because our pilots have been found and they have been rescued and returned. So it's all good. We ain't got to worry about that. But sadly, the war still does continue. And of course, Iran is drawing on that deadline. Remember, it's April 6th. We're on April 5th. But let's get right into it with the report that our pilots are secured. Let's go.
A missing American crew member whose fighter jet was shot down over Iran has been successfully rescued by U.S. forces. President Trump posting on his Truth Social account not long ago here, writing in part, "We got him. My fellow Americans, over the past several hours, the United States military pulled off one of the most daring search and rescue operations in U.S. history for one of our incredible crew member officers, who also happened to be a highly respected colonel, and who I am thrilled to let you know is now safe and sound." President Trump went on to write that this service member sustained injuries, but will be just fine. This high-stakes search, it started this week after an F-15 Strike Eagle fighter was actually shot down in the region. Another crew member was rescued alive shortly after the crash and is now receiving medical attention. For the latest now, let's head over to CNN's Jim Sciutto joining me live from Tel Aviv. Jim, is there any indication that this operation was clearly in the works since this incident, since the crash?
It was absolutely. The search and rescue efforts underway since the moment this F-15 went down with its two-person crew. As you know, they rescued the first pilot early on, but I was told on Friday that they had received a communication from the second pilot Friday evening and had spent a good, more than 24 hours attempting to locate him and then get him out of the country safely. And that's what
because it was really complicated, because by the time the Iranian media, sent out the order to go find this guy with reward, Iranians was already surrounding that area. So they already knew where he were at. There were citizens looking for him. The military was looking for him. As soon as the helicopters started trying to save this guy, they were shooting at them. So yeah, it was a daring mission and a dangerous mission for sure. And I mean, like I said, man, shout out for our military men for pulling that one off. Thank God.
President has just announced. We were also told that he had been injured, and that, of course, added to the concern, the urgency to get him out of the country safely. In addition to that, we know that there was a race in effect underway between U.S. search and rescue teams and Iranian authorities, the military, who were attempting to.
Oh God, we got about 7 of y'all in here, man. Do me a favor and double tap that screen, man. Let's get a start. Let's get a good start to the stream by liking the video, and let's get more people on the conversation.
To get to him first, and you even heard Iranian state TV encouraging residents in the area to locate him, offering rewards to locate him, and report that location to the authorities. So this is a race in effect that U.S. search and rescue teams won, and a difficult one, because these search and rescue operations, although the teams are highly trained for this, they're dangerous because you're putting a lot of aircraft over hostile territory, and many of those aircraft, the helicopters involved in the extraction, the fixed-wing aircraft involved in locating the pilot, they fly low, and they fly relatively slow compared to the jet, for instance, the F-15, which was shot down. And Iran, of course, demonstrated its ability to threaten aircraft, taking down that F-15 and also taking down an A-10 Warthog, as it's known, in that same 24-hour period. So this is an enormous relief, certainly for the pilot's family, for the military. I am certain for the other member of that F-15 crew, who I'm sure spent the hours leading up to this rescue wondering if his co-pilot or really weapons officer would come out alive. And we now have that good news.
Yeah, it's a wonderful outcome, especially for the family of the service member, without a doubt. The president writing that all Americans, regardless of their party, should be proud of this moment. So there is that. However, the war rages on, Jim. So based on what you're hearing there in the region, what happens next, especially as we continue to look?
I mean, easy. Well, the war continues. And of course, Iran is drawing upon that April 6th deadline. So it look like we may be attacking their energy infrastructure. Israel seems to be preparing to do so as we speak. So no, the war just continues, but we don't have our military guys, or we don't have our pilots on the ground possibly being in danger of a strike or being held hostage. So, I mean, that's a good thing. But the war still continuing. I mean, of course, that's a bad thing, but hey, we can all be happy about our pilots being safe and sound.
At this current deadline that President Trump set for Monday for the Strait of Hormuz to reopen.
Yeah. Well, the president has said that this operation will not affect U.S. war planning. And as he said in his address to the nation 2-3 days ago, that he said there were 2 to 3 more weeks in the war. Now, we should take both that timeline and his latest threat to Iran with something of a grain of salt, because he has put out a number of deadlines, red lines, et cetera, that he hasn't met on those timelines, right? So that timeline could slide. But at a minimum, the president is saying that he's trying to apply more pressure on Iran to open the strait, which, of course, is affecting international oil markets. And it's somewhat contradictory, again, to his speech to the nation, because you'll remember in his address, he said that the U.S. doesn't care about opening the strait because it has enough of its own oil, and he intended to leave that to other nations. But here he seems to be putting himself back in the game, as it were, to try to pressure Iran to open the strait to allow shipping. But I will say this, that we know from both its continued ability to target countries such as Israel, as we see air raid warnings here quite frequently, as do Iran's Gulf allies. You know from Iran having been able to shoot down these 2 jets, but also our own reporting that.
And here, like I said, here's the problem. Like I said, I'm happy that our guys are safe and sound, but here's a problem with this. Well, the fact that we had to do this operation. Here's a problem with that. Well, we've been bragging about air superiority for the past month or so, and now here we are, like with two pilots that had their life put in danger because what? They were flying a bit too low. And here's the thing, I don't blame them for flying a bit too low, because, well, maybe just like us, they were being told they had complete air superiority. 90% of their missiles been decimated, but according to U.S. intelligence, our own intelligence, only about a third of it, so 33%. So like I said, everything they're telling us is coming out of Trump's mouth, Pete Hegseth's mouth, does not reflect what's going on the battlefield or in this war.
U.S. intelligence assessments show that Iran continues to have missile capabilities, that it still has an ability to fight back, right? So the any sense that this war might be over soon and decisively, there's really not a lot of evidence of that right now.
I want to head over now to retired U.S. Army Major General Mark McCarley. He's a founder of the legal firm McCarley and Rosen. Thank you so much for joining us, General. I'm wondering if I could just get off the top your reaction to this news from President Trump that the service member has been rescued.
As a service member and a U.S. citizen, I am totally elated. This is a wonderful outcome in what could have been disastrous for the U.S. in terms of the global perspective of this conflict with Iran.
I'm curious if you just really punctuate that last point, General, just how high the stakes were, not only obviously with the life of the serviceman.
Oh, it'd have been a hostage negotiation, like part 2. Except, like, I'm not sure if we'd have been willing to give them anything over our guy. And I mean, and it looked really bad, like, well, no, publicity wise, this war doesn't really have good approval ratings. And I'm be real with you here. If a soldier was to get captured, it would have even worse. So I'm really happy that our soldiers are safe and sound. And also the publicity nightmare this would have been if they were to get captured by Iran.
Number hanging in the balance, but also what this could have potentially meant.
Make sure to double tap that screen and like the video, guys. Appreciate the support, by the way. Make sure we're smashing that like button, double tapping the screen. Let's go ahead and push ourselves through the algorithm.
Diplomatically and militarily for this conflict that rages on.
If that crew member of that F-15 Strike Eagle had in fact been captured by the Iranians, there is no doubt in my mind that the Iranians would exploit that capture. That service member would see himself paraded in front of social media outlets in Iran, television, and the caption on that is...
Bro, they'd have put that man on Iranian state media, and he'd have been reading, like, Well, he'd been reading statements. Yes, he'd been reading statements to the president like ISIS was making do journalists back in the Obama days before they, slit their throat. I know, right? I mean, hey, yeah, it was that wild back in the day. So that's pretty much what they'd have done, probably without the execution or slitting the throat. But they'd have had that man all over social media and all over their media, reading out written statements to our president, pretty much embarrassing us. Just like it was pretty embarrassing for Barack Obama to have to sit there, get taunted by ISIS, and then watch American citizens get their throat slit. It's not a good look.
America is weak. Its claim of indefensibility has now been stricken, and we Iranians will prevail in this conflict. And then, of course, what was discussed by several of your other commentators is the exploitation of that service member in custody, the efforts, and I would certainly assert very violent efforts to extract valuable information from that very proud and heroic member of our Air Force.
Yeah, thankfully, that was not the case. When you just in reading over.
All right, let's get into some other coverage. Let's see what international media is saying here. Shout out to Al Jazeera. And guys, like I said, make sure to double tap that screen and like the video, guys. We're still under a shadow ban, but we could beat the shadow ban by double tapping that screen.
Oh. All right, turning to some breaking news now. A U.S. government official has told Al Jazeera that the second crew member who was on board an F-15 fighter jet shot down over Iran has been recovered. The rescue happened after what was described as a heavy firefight. The jet went down on Friday, and the other crew member was rescued shortly after. Iranian and U.S. forces were searching for the missing crew member who has now been rescued.
All right, now let's get over to, I think CBS did some pretty good coverage on it as well. All right, let's get right into it.
According to 18E in Iran was rescued by special forces Sunday morning local time, according to multiple U.S. officials. The second crew member, a weapons systems officer, was one of two people on board. Both airmen ejected. U.S. officials said the pilot of that aircraft was rescued Friday, a short time after Iranian forces downed the aircraft over western Iran. That pilot's condition has not yet been released. For more information on this breaking development tonight, we turn to CBS News national security coordinating producer James Laporta. He's a U.S. Marine veteran, infantryman, and veteran of the Afghanistan war. James, what are we learning right now about how this rescue mission came together and how the airman was ultimately brought to safety?
Yeah, so this was really a race against time. From the moment that F-15 went down, it was a race for U.S. forces to try to retrieve both pilots.
Yep.
And separately from, separate from this event, there was another plane that went down on Friday. We had an A-10 that was shot down. That pilot ejected and was rescued, and he is safe. But from the moment that this F-15 was shot down, it was a race. So combat search and rescue assets were launched.
Oh yeah, and we also lost like one of the helicopters in that rescue. I'm gonna go ahead and show you pretty much a video of the rescue, which is going to be pretty entertaining to see. So make sure you double tap that screen and like the video and keep watching. And it shows how we actually lost a helicopter, and well, Iranian state media is bragging about it pretty much. But yeah, one of our helicopters went down. Luckily, everybody on that helicopter was okay, and they was able to get to the other helicopter. Even though the helicopter was overweight, they were still able to make that rescue. Like I said, I mean, we got the best of the best out there. So shout out to them once again. All right, let's get into it.
And they were able to recover the pilot of that F-15. However, they were not able to, as you pointed out, they were not able to rescue the weapons systems officer. The weapons systems officer, had been hiding with essentially no more than a pistol to defend himself for the last 48 hours.
Man.
And so, multiple U.S. military assets came into play, along with intelligence capabilities, cyber operations came into play, even our space assets came into play in order to rescue this American.
Have we been told anything about the crew member's condition right now?
Not at the moment. Only that they have been rescued. In terms of his status. We're not sure if all is safe and sound, or did he sustain any injuries, or so I don't want to go too much into speculation on that, because all we know at this point is that he has been rescued.
Walk us through just how a search and rescue mission unfolds in a case like this.
Sure. So we have assets in the U.S. military that this is all they do is train for a combat search and rescue, or it's also known in some, for the Navy and the Marines, we will call this a TRAP mission, which is the tactical recovery of aircraft and personnel. But in this particular mission, one of the units that was really key in this was the Air Force pararescuemen. Air Force pararescuemen are sometimes known as the PJs, are special operation forces who...
All right, here it is. I found the footage of the wreckage of the helicopter right here. So, yeah. Like I said, luckily all the guys on the helicopter was able to get out before things got bad, and was able to get onto the other helicopter and make their escape out. So, yeah. But all right, though, let's get over here, back here. Let's move a little bit forward.
The area where this downed crew member was. So this was a very risky, very dangerous mission that could have really gone the wrong way, but thankfully this person has been rescued.
Extremely risky. Now, we're looking ahead now. What happens next in this case? How significant is this rescue operation in the broader context of the war right now?
I mean,
that's a great question.
I mean, no, there's really no significant hit or anything to Iran or the U.S. We just made sure that our guy can't be used as a hostage. If anything, like if that's, I mean, you could take that as win right there. Sure, shit, I do, but it's not really a hit on Iran or anything like that, or really and honestly, it's anything. It's something that they could boast about. They're like, oh, we took out a jet, we took out a helicopter, wah, wah, wah. You already know how Iranian state media is going to play this. But all right, though, let's go ahead and get over to that video here. AI Telly. Shout out to these guys. This here, see, U.S. jet shot down, the most daring rescue mission ever. And guys, let's make sure we're double tapping that screen and liking the video. If you have any questions, comments, jokes, or disagreements, just go ahead and super chat it in. Great way to support the show, or send a gift. Appreciate the support, guys. But like I said, let's make sure we're double tapping that screen and smashing the like button.
How exactly did an F-15E Strike Eagle get hit while flying a routine mission? Just one of the nearly 13,000 combat sorties flown by the U.S. military. However, it was on this day that Iranian forces successfully targeted an American jet with a Russian-made missile. But there's one strict code in the U.S. military that overrides everything else. Nobody gets left behind. An A-10 Thunderbolt flew into the rescue, treading an approaching Iranian convoy before they could reach the American pilot. But this aggressive maneuver came with a massive risk. Because the A-10 was flying at such a low altitude, Iranian forces armed with thousands of man-pads were able to launch a Chinese-made, shoulder-fired missile. It found its mark, crippling the A-10's engine. But this single incident triggered a massive chain reaction. When two rescue helicopters launched to recover the downed pilot, it flew right into an ambush, taking heavy fire from a Soviet-era Zu-23 anti-aircraft gun. On the 3rd April 2026, the Zagros Mountains, Kermanshah province, near the Iran-Iraq border. This terrain is characterized by jagged peaks and deep, narrow valleys. It is a tactical nightmare for aviators, but provides excellent terrain masking to hide from long-range radar. However, it also allows enemy forces to set up devastating short-range anti-aircraft ambushes. But how did the U.S. lose an F-15E Strike Eagle, an A-10 Warthog, and nearly a combat search and rescue team helicopter, and a Reaper drone in a single night? Well, this is how it started at 2:15 hours. A flight of two F-15E Strike Eagles crosses the border at low altitude. A pilot and a weapons system officer were flying their target, a deeply buried command bunker. They used terrain-following radar to hide in the valleys, staying beneath the gaze of Iran's long-range Bavar 373 missile network. But what happens when they have to strike? To drop its GBU-28 bunker buster, the Leave Strike Eagle has to pull up and move above the mountains. This is breaking the radar horizon. In a gorge below, highly mobile, Tor M1's surface-to-air missile system is waiting. It achieves a lock. and 2 missiles leave the rails. The pilot dumps flares and pulls high GS. 1 missile is spoofed. But could they evade the second? Well, the second missile detonates on proximity, causing catastrophic hydraulic failure. The crew ejects into the pitch-black mountains, and the Sandy Protocol is immediately activated. But this is the U.S. military, and they will move heaven on earth to rescue a fallen combat. At 2:45 hours in the morning, because the crash is near the border, A-10 Thunderbolt II operating nearby are diverted for resort, also called rescue escort. Down below, Iranian quick reaction forces are closing in on the downed airmen. The lead A-10 executes a low-level strafing run with its legendary 30mm Avenger cannon, neutralizing the convoy. But how did this aggressive maneuver come at a cost? The noise and tracers give away its position, as the A-10 banks hard, bleeding off airspeed. For context, Iran recently flooded the battlefield with these Chinese shoulder-fired missiles, weapons that are essentially
Chinese shoulder-firing missiles. I bet. Now they have shoulder-firing missiles out there on the battlefield, on the ground. And like I said, they said we had air superiority, and we're getting like hit by what? Shoulder-firing missiles, and not even hit by trucks, but by people.
Reverse-engineered clones of Russian Manpad. The Iranian soldier fires a S.E.T. inferred guided missile. At this altitude, countermeasures deploy too late. The missile shreds the right turbofan engine. But can the Warthog's legendary armor save it? Yes, the armor did save it from this missile launcher as it flew even with a damaged engine.
Nice.
Because of the armor, the pilot managed to point the dying jet toward a plateau and punches out. But just how many crash sites are we looking at? The F-15E crashed deep inside southwestern Iran. Specifically, local reports and verified wreckage photos place the crash site in the rugged mountainous terrain of the Khojaly and Boyar Almad province, while the A-10 Warthog did not go down over the Iranian mainland. After taking heavy damage during the search and rescue escort mission, the pilot managed to navigate the crippled jet away from the mountains and towards safer airspace.
Hey, yo, man, we got 20 of y'all in here, man. Do me a favor and double tap that screen and like the video, guys. Let's get more people in on the conversation by double tapping that screen, liking the video. Appreciate the support, by the way. But let's make sure we're liking the video and smashing the like button, no matter where you're watching from. All right, let's get right back into it.
Of the Khojaly and Boyar Almad province, while the A-10 Warthog did not go down over the Iranian mainland. After taking heavy damage during the search and rescue escort mission, the pilot managed to navigate the crippled jet away from the mountains and towards safer airspace. The rugged battle-damaged A-10 eventually crashed in the southern waters of the Persian Gulf, specifically near the Strait of Hormuz. Now, this at 3:15 hours. A dedicated combat search and rescue package launches. These are highly trained rescue units built for this type of rescue mission. It includes an HC-130J Combat King. This acts as an airborne command center, followed by 2 HC-60D helicopters, call signs Pedro 11 and Pedro 12. They fly over the radar, topping off their fuel in midair to maximize loiter time. But will they make it into hostile territory undetected? Well, they push deep into the Zagros Mountains just as dawn approaches. 4:45 hours. Pedro 11 locates the A-10 pilot's inferred strobe. Pedro 12 circles above, providing overwatch with its 50 caliber machine guns. Pedro 11 flares for landing, and the Ps hit the dirt to secure the pilot. Then this happened to hidden Iranian Zu-23, a Soviet-era anti-aircraft gun opens fire from a concealed hideout. It's an ambush. Heavy armor-piercing rounds tear through Pedro 12 as it orbits, resulting in severed transmission lines and an injured crew. The pilot wrestles the crippled chopper into a hard, controlled crash near Pedro 11.
Cold.
The rescue mission is now a fight for survival, and Pedro 11 is the only way home. Under heavy covering fire, the crew of the downed chopper sprints to the surviving bird.
Okay, and like I said, I believe I showed you guys the video, but I'll show it once again for those of you guys who's just joining in. And like I said, double tap the screen and like the video, guys. But yes, this is where that jet went down. This is the video footage of, after the event. And like the video said, all of these guys were able to get away into the next helicopter and safely return back. But yeah, just for a visual reference. I know, crazy, right? But all right, though, let's go ahead and get right back to the video here.
But how did they stop the enemy barrage? Then at 5:02 hours, The C-130 overhead coordinates an immediate strike. Two F-35 stealth fighter jet loitering high above in stealth overwatch drop precision munitions, silencing the anti-aircraft gun. With the A-10 pilot, the PJ, and the crash chopper's crew crammed inside, Pedro 11 is maxed out on weight. But how do you fly an overloaded helicopter escape the Zagros mountain? This is how they do it. Pulling maximum power, the engines screaming, they barely clear the tree line and dive back into the valleys, racing for the border. By 5:30 in the morning, Pedro 11 crossed back into Iraqi airspace, battered, overloaded, but alive. As stated, no one gets left behind. The F-15E crew is still missing in action, requiring a massive JSOC raid the following night. If you don't want your phone and emails to get compromised like that, you should get this military-grade VPN 30-day money-back guarantee.
Oh, guys, make sure to double tap that screen and like the video, guys. Like I said, let's get more people in on the conversation by double tapping that screen. And make sure you guys are talking in the chat as well, man. It also shows engagement. Let me know what you guys think. Ask any type of question. If I catch it, I'll see if I can get you that answer. Or you can super chat it in. That works as well.
Oh wait, an F-35 was also hit during one of its mission sorties. To properly analyze this incident, you need to understand that there are two distinct types of missiles: radar-guided and heat-seeking. The F-35 was designed to be practically invisible to long-range radar, but it wasn't built to completely hide from heat-seeking missiles. So how exactly did Iran missile manage to bypass the stealth technology of the US F-35? Well, the secret lies in a major vulnerability that is its heat signature. Its geometry and radar-absorbent materials make its radar cross-section incredibly small, essentially rendering it invisible to traditional early warning and targeting radars. To give you some context, this is how planes' radar signal—
I mean, yeah, sky's the limit. No, that's right. Yeah, because some of their radiation, it could low-key leak out into the Persian Gulf, and I mean, a whole lot of people is going to be cooked after that. I mean, bro, did you see what we did with their oil when we blew it up into the sky and it ended down raining down on them? A lot of people got like respiratory conditions because of that, like got respiratory damage. So yeah, trust me, if we don't handle their nuclear stockpile with care, yeah, we could risk some type of a serious radiation or a nuclear fallout in the Middle East because they'll be leaking into the Persian Gulf.
Compares to a bird's, but the F-35 is powered by a single Pratt & Whitney F135 engine, one of the most powerful fighter engines in the world.
Yep.
The F-35 is heavily optimized to defeat radio frequency radar like the billion-dollar S-400 and S-300 missiles. However, stealth does not mean completely invisible. This engine produces a massive heat plume. Instead of using radar, modern air defense networks utilize inferred search and track systems. The answer is this short-range heat-seeking missile like this one. These passive sensors scan the skies for any heat anomalies because inferred—
Okay, and here's the thing, this is like the second F-15 that's gotten the first one got damaged, this one got downed, and what this is showing is that the F-15 is not suitable for this air campaign in Iran. If anything, we got to keep it to the F-35s, which has the stealth mode and which can mainly evade these. Was it an F-35 that was shot down last time? Let me make sure.
Search and track systems emit no energy themselves. The F-35's radar warning receivers would not alert the pilot that they were being painted by a target lock in the same way a radar lock would. But how did the missile lock, and how did the F-35 use evasive maneuvers? Once an inferred guided missile is launched, the dynamic of the engagement changes to a race of physics and countermeasures. When the missile's IR seeker head locked—
No, wait, I was wrong. You're right. No, I was wrong. It was an F-35 that was shot last time. And that's the one with the stealth. But like the video said here, because of its heat signature, it got hit. So and this video is pretty much stating what I've been stating for weeks now. How do we have air superiority, but one, they're able to fire missiles, and two, they're hitting our ships and hitting our military bases in the region? Like, how can we claim any type of air superiority? It don't make sense. Oh, guys, make sure to double tap that screen, like the video. We got about 20 y'all in here, man. Let's get us to 15 likes.
Onto the massive thermal output of the F-35's engine exhaust. But the detection, the F-35 is equipped with a distributed aperture system, 6 infrared cameras positioned around the aircraft that provide a 360-degree spherical view. The distributed aperture system detects the intense heat signature of the incoming missile's rocket motor and instantly alerts the pilot. To break the lock, a pilot executes high-G evasive maneuvers while simultaneously deploying flares. If the missile tracks the flares but is already within a lethal radius, its proximity fuse will trigger the warhead. The resulting shrapnel and shockwave can cause significant damage to the aircraft's control surfaces, stealth coating, or internal systems without scoring a catastrophic direct hit, which perfectly aligns with reports of the F-35 sustaining damage but safely executing an emergency landing. But what are flares? These pyrotechnic countermeasures are made of magnesium or other combustible metals that burn at temperatures exceeding the aircraft's engine heat. The goal of the flares is to overwhelm or confuse the missile's IR seeker, forcing it to chase the decoy heat sources instead of the jet. But what is Iran's secret weapon? We believe it's the 358 anti-aircraft missile, or the SA-67. The 358 is a unique hybrid between a loitering munition or kamikaze drone and a surface-to-air missile. But how does it work?
What?
It flies at slower subsonic speeds and can loiter in
It's a dramissile? It's a drone/missile. Okay. Well, who'da knew?
designated airspace in a figure-8 pattern.
I mean, why are we learning new things about Iran's arsenal by today? This is kind of like, bro, this is why people said we probably shouldn't be taking these guys on directly. Why? Because we don't even know everything they have. And sadly, we're learning day by day. And that's not a good thing.
Until its optical and infrared sensors detect a target.
I thought
if a 385 missile or a more advanced high-speed indigenous IR-guided surface-to-air missile was guided by a ground-based IRST network, it could engage the F-35 entirely within the infrared spectrum, bypassing the jet's radar challenges the long-held doctrine that fifth-generation fighters can operate with total impunity in contested airspace, highlighting the evolving threat of infrared detection. But it has its advantages as it cannot hit fighter jets far from its radius of launch system. But why does the US rely on the F-15 as its ultimate bomb truck? Each F-15 is heavily laden with GDAMs and small-diameter bombs. Interestingly, it can carry up to 19 GDAMs or 28 small-diameter weapons. While the B-2s hit the deep bunkers, the F-15s hunt the mobile targets. Their AESA radars scan the ground for ballistic missile launchers hiding in valleys. Working in pairs, they drop precision bombs on missile convoys, hangars, and secondary command nodes. Once they are Winchester, out of ammo, or low on fuel, they don't go home yet. They connect to this tanker common launch tube that fits into almost any aircraft's existing fuel hatch. They retreat to those tanker tracks established in Phase 1, taking on thousands of pounds of jet fuel in midair before turning back for a second sortie. During Operation Fury, the U.S. has been using F-35s to lead strikes and declared air superiority to hunt for surface-to-air missile and suppress air defenses. Although the U.S. has achieved near-total air superiority, but the war is just entering its most dangerous stage. But here is the problem: Iran is still not out of the fight. If the U.S. owns the sky, why not just send in standard fighters? Because while Iran's main network is shattered, isolated surface-to-air batteries like the S-300 are still hiding in the shadows. For an F-15 E-Strike Eagle, the legendary bomb truck of the Air Force, one lucky radar lock from a rogue missile is a death sentence. And in a high-stakes conflict, losing a crew and a multi-million-dollar jet to a surviving battery is a risk the Pentagon simply won't take. But how did the US and Israel manage to use F-35 jets to strike Iran while Iranian air defenses were still up and running? To make this happen, they didn't just rely on local land bases. They brought two massive floating cities right to Iran's doorstep. Down in the Arabian Sea, you've got the USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group bearing down on the south and east. And over in the eastern Mediterranean, the biggest newest ship, USS Gerald R. Ford. While Israeli jets flew all the way across the Middle East to reach Iranian airspace, timing was absolutely critical. The moment those IDF jets reached their marks, the missiles were released. And that brings us to the most terrifying, complicated part of this entire operation: the synchronization. Military planners rely on a tactic called time on target. Look at this map. You have missiles firing from submarines, cruise missiles launching from escort ships, and massive payload drops from stealth bombers. They're all deploying from completely different locations at entirely different times. But here is the genius of it. The US military machine was mathematically choreographed so everything impacted Kairaj, Tehran, Qom, Kermanshah, and Isfahan at the exact same second the Israeli jets dropped their guided bombs. It was designed to be a total systemic shock and explodes at the same time. a move to collapse the regime instantly. When those munitions finally hit, it was pure shock and awe. But why did the Iranian air defenses fail to activate? Well, to put it simply, the US military operates in a completely different league. Using a highly advanced mix of electronic warfare and cyber operations, coordinated from space to the ground, the coalition was able to inject false data directly into Iranian radar screens. Top-tier Iranian air defense systems, like their homegrown Baver and their Russian-supplied batteries, were absolutely overwhelmed by this electronic assault. But to actually hunt them down, the US set a brilliant trap. They launched hundreds of ABM-160 MALDs, miniature air-launched decoys. To a panicked Iranian radar operator staring at a chaotic screen, these tiny drones look exactly like a massive squadron of F-15s or F-16s screaming toward the capital. With the door kicked wide open, fifth-generation stealth fighters, including both US and Israeli F-35s with possible F-22 Raptors, sliced through the airspace completely undetected. Ultimately, the Iranian air defense network wasn't just suppressed, it was completely dismantled, at least for the time period. Because the Iranian do have a huge firepower. We make original videos from scratch.
But all right, guys, make sure to double tap that screen, like the video. We got about 19 of you guys in the vertical. So like I said, go ahead and double tap that screen and like the video, guys. Appreciate the support, by the way. All right, let's go ahead and get into the next video. Got a little bit more to cover when it comes to the Iran war updates.
Yemen's Houthi group has announced it carried out a joint long-range attack on Israel alongside Iranian and Hezbollah forces. It says it fired a ballistic missile targeting Lod Airport in the Jaffa area and key military targets.
The Yemeni armed forces, with God's help, carried out their fifth military operation, using a fissile ballistic missile and several drones targeting Lod Airport in the Jaffa area and vital military targets belonging to the Israeli enemy in southern occupied Palestine. This operation was conducted jointly with the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the Iranian Army, and Hezbollah in Lebanon, and it successfully achieved its objectives.
Hundreds of people took to the streets in Israel on Saturday.
Yeah, and I believe the Houthis announced their involvement. What was it? Probably like 3 days ago. And here's the problem with the Houthis getting involved. The problem with these guys getting involved is that, well, they're kind of in a good spot to close off the Red Sea. And the thing is, they're kind of just waiting to be tested, because that's what we were using, besides the Strait of Hormuz, to get some of this oil through and other goods as well. But now that the Houthis have joined the battle, and sadly, from what I've seen from my comments, a lot of people don't know where Yemen's at, and that's where the Houthis are. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick little geography lesson here. Shout out to Google Earth. And this is where Yemen is, right? So shout out to, well, I guess the non-terrorists in Yemen. And where the Houthis are is over here. Over here in this part of Yemen, right next to the Red Sea. This is the reason why there were to be such a problem, basically be pirates of the Red Sea under Biden, because they're just like right here, over here, right near the passage. And they're right next to Oman, which means they're able to attack Oman ports and keep them from transporting any oil or goods that they have. So, yeah, now it's like a three-way crackdown also on Israel, because you got people over here in Lebanon and Hezbollah that's attacking Israel. Then you got your people over here in Iran that's over here attacking Israel. And then you got all the way over here across the Middle East, your people over here in Yemen, the Houthis, attacking Israel. So, yeah, it's like a three-way hit on Israel, and this is what makes it very dangerous. And then also now, not only can they close the Strait of Hormuz more securely, but now they can also close the Red Sea. So, yeah, this is the problem with these guys joining in on the conflict. Oh, and make sure to double tap that screen and like the video, guys.
To demand an end to the war in Iran. Protesters gathered in Tel Aviv's main square, as well as in several major cities, including Jerusalem and Haifa. Demonstrations are held every Saturday against the Netanyahu government. Well, Rob McBride joins us now live from the Jordanian capital, Amman. Rob, so Israel has been coming under attack from Iran, from Hezbollah, and from the Houthis in Yemen. Meanwhile, we've heard an Israeli official saying that they're ready to hit Iranian energy facilities and that they're just waiting for the green light to be given from the U.S. What else are you learning about all this?
Yeah, that's right. It does seem as though senior defense officials in Israel have been briefing a number of media outlets in Israel. And so we are getting this picture being reported about the Israeli military preparing what the next phase of this air campaign against Iran will look like, with this particular focus now on, it seems, energy infrastructure, with talk about energy plants, power plants, and electricity distribution all being targeted very much in line with the Trump administration, with the possible threatened escalation in this air campaign, and with the military apparently saying that they will be ready to go within a few days or so, at least in the next coming days, which seems to fit in sync exactly with this 48-hour ultimatum issued now by President Donald Trump. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Netanyahu on Saturday evening issued a
so President Trump issued a 48-hour ultimatum, open up the Strait of Hormuz, or like he previously stated before multiple times, that he's going to start attacking energy infrastructure in Iran, and of course possibly even water desalination centers and even oil wells. And the problem is that could be constituted as a war crime because, well, destroying their energy infrastructure is going to have more of an effect on the civilians of Iran, and then destroying the water desalination center is going to have more of an effect on the civilians of Iran. And that's how you kind of weigh out what's a war crime and what's not, is the effect that it has on the civilians. Like if you're attacking war bases, well, attacking a military base, attacking military base doesn't really have too much of an effect on the citizens of Iran. But attacking an energy like infrastructure or where they produce their energy, now, yes, that's going to have an effect, and that would be constituted as a war crime. All right.
Video statement just
explaining
exactly where.
Oh, yeah. Make sure to double tap that screen. Make sure to like the video and smash the like button wherever you're watching.
The campaign is up to, in his view, and as we know, the air campaign has been expanding in its targets away from just military and regime targets in recent weeks, now looking at the more broader infrastructure of the whole of Iran, and with Netanyahu explaining that the so-called dual use industries that serve both civilian and military uses are now targets, such as the steel industry. He says that Iran has lost 70% of its steel making capacity, the justification being that steel from that is used in armaments production. The same goes for petrochemicals, which is now, he says, the focus of Israeli Air Force strikes, because some of the materials from there are used in the production of missiles, which now legitimizes, in his view, that they become a target. Meanwhile, one of those missiles we have had fired in the early hours of this morning. It's Sunday, which was fired from Iran. It was intercepted over the southern city of Beersheba, where it broke up with no casualties being reported.
And Rob, as all of this is playing out, Israel is also intensifying its invasion of the south of Lebanon. What's the messaging like from the Israeli?
It's kind of wild. Like Israel's over here doing airstrikes in Iran, doing ground invasions in southern Lebanon. I mean, this is one of the reasons why they tell us that they can't put, troops on the ground, because they're too busy doing other things, apparently. Like, obviously, more important than helping out.